Wolfpack Nation? Welcome back to Tuffy Talk. We are so glad you chose to find our channel here and check out this preview for the big matchup this upcoming Friday, not Saturday, but Friday afternoon against NC State versus UNC, the Wolfpack versus the Tar Heels. It's what both of these teams really look forward to in football every year, and it really is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated football rivalries in the country, I would say. So it's become pretty heated, I would say, especially, I don't know if last year I wouldn't say got heated, but last year was a more like just a crazy ending. And I don't say that to just, we've got our guest here, Will from Great Day Tar Heel, who for a Carolina fan, guys, I want to say he's been pretty cool for a Carolina fan. But yeah, no, but I really am excited about it. And Will, we really are glad to have you on the show.
No, it's been fun all season talking with you guys, so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, man. So I guess first off, how is I guess it's been an interesting season. I think more so. Well, it's been interesting for both teams, right? So State's had a different storyline than UNC has had. I think State has dealt with more of the injuries than Carolina has dealt with, which has led them the last, in their losses minus the Clemson game, their losses have really come down to the quarterback position being hurt. I would say it's a lot of it. But, with Carolina, and I'll probably say this too. I think State's had a really strong defense, right? They've been known for their defense. Their offense has struggled at times. Obviously, I said because of the quarterback for one thing, but everybody has been on again, off again with Tim Beck and offensive play calling. But with Carolina, the storyline's been all offense, right? And it's obviously sent around redshirt freshman Drake May, and I mean, just came out of nowhere. I mean, it was him versus Jacoby Criswell, and I remember that preseason, and there was a battle, and I have a cousin who is a Carolina fan. He said, man, I could have told you it was going to be Drake May, but I thought it was going to be Criswell, to be honest with you. I kind of did think that. But man, what a season Drake May has had. Can you talk a little bit, not just about Drake May, but let's just start with Carolina as a whole, what the season has been like from a Carolina fan's perspective? What has been going on with Carolina this year?
It's been a fun ride for sure. I mean, last year not to win a single road game, and this year undefeated on the road. Every single win was by a touchdown or less on the road.
Yeah.
So it's not been
easy.
I
didn't realize that.
Every game. I mean, starting off with the App State debacle.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It was a win, but it was a nerve-wracking one. And I think that game kind of set up what's been the talking point for UNC all year. Is great offense, no defense. I mean, they did give up 40 that fourth quarter. And until last night, they hadn't given up 40 cumulatively in the rest of the fourth quarters all season long. So, last night was kind of just everyone's halting the brakes on everything right now, trying to figure out where we stand and what's going on and what happened, and, repositioning our plans for the rest of the year. But it's been a fun ride. I mean, I'm not going to complain about 9-2 ever.
No. Yeah. I think Layton had this kind of good expression. I thought he said, at least for NC State being 7-2 before we had this little skid we've had since the QB injuries. He said, I'm going to apologize about being 7-2 for approximately 0.0 seconds. I'm going to apologize. Carolina's going to apologize for being 9-2 for 0 seconds, right?
Take it every year.
especially when you're talking about the total turnover and being able to get the road wins, right?
Exactly.
Last year it was none. This year you've won all of them so far. That's a credit, I would say, to the coaching staff there, getting that done. And I think really just the mentality of the team, I would say. You're probably going into as a team like every road game we're going to go in and try to get this win. But it's hard not talking about that ability to win on the road if you don't have a quarterback like you guys do. And, man,
he's covered up a lot of weaknesses probably.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a good quarterback should, right? In a lot of ways, but can you talk about Drake May? Like, did Carolina fans? I'm not saying they didn't think he'd be a good quarterback. Did you see it? did you see him having any sort of level of this kind of success?
Not out the gate. I mean, I knew the potential was there. I mean, he was obviously a 5-star committed to Alabama out of high school. I think his junior he didn't play his senior year because he enrolled early, but his junior year he threw 50 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions. And I read an article that said, other than those 2 interceptions, only 2 other passes hit a defender's hands the whole season. So he obviously makes good decisions with the ball. I mean, I don't think you can do a practice without getting 4 hands on a ball by the defense normally.
Yeah.
But this kind of year, I don't think anyone could, say they saw it coming.
It's exceptional, right? I mean, it's just rare. It's extremely rare for a freshman. I know he's a redshirt freshman, so he has had a year under his belt. I actually thought he was a true freshman up front, but I forgot he had a year. But Carolina, you mentioned being 9-2, and for those who haven't really followed Carolina a ton, although I know if you're a State fan, you probably have, and vice versa, if you're a Carolina fan, you probably have followed State to a degree. The only, they did, they had won all of their games until this past weekend, except for the Notre Dame game at home. It was when Carolina was ranked 18 and Notre Dame was ranked. Well, I think they were ranked 18. Maybe they weren't ranked, but they played a good Notre Dame team at that time. I think actually who had kind of been struggling up to that point, but they lost at home 45-32. They've won all of their other games right up until just this past Saturday against Georgia Tech at home. And I don't think State fans are going to, that they will pick on Carolina for losing Georgia Tech, but I mean, we lost to Boston College at home. So, I mean, they're both bad teams, but I guess I'm going to go there too. Can you talk about what happened there? Cause I didn't watch the game.
It just looked disjointed from the start. I mean, we had the 80-yard touchdown run, first offensive play, but from there it looked like, you don't make excuses, but like everyone was just sick. Like it wasn't there, Drake was getting caught from behind when he started scrambling. There was 2 drop touchdowns. Guys weren't getting open. And, I'm curious to what extent Antoine Green not playing hurt, because he's that deep threat that takes the top off the defense. And we did miss a deep shot to Gavin Blackwell pretty early. He just overthrew him. But,
yeah,
not having that guy to take the top off the defense does hurt. Like you saw in 2016 when UNC lost Mac Hollins, it just totally changed the offense.
Yeah.
So it just the whole offense wasn't there pretty much the entire game.
Right. In some ways, State and Carolina have had similar seasons, but obviously for very different reasons. In that, like you said, most of Carolina's wins have been 1-score games, with the offense just scoring just enough. And kind of State the opposite. A lot of our wins have been 1-possession games with our defense, making that final stop when we needed to.
That's true.
Yeah, but it really shows that, like you were saying about Antoine Green, missing a key player here and there. Really, obviously ours was a little bigger with the QB position, but we've got some other injuries to deal with too. But those 1 or 2 positions, key positions that you lose a guy, it can really have a big impact on your season.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm just looking at these stats here. It's interesting because I was talking earlier. Obviously, being able to win on the road and have the success they've had, they have to be good offensively. And UNC is ranked first in ACC in offense, scoring offense. They're averaging 38 points a game. But if you look at Pro Football Focus, they're on offense. They are literally ranked number 1 nationally as far as passing offensive grade, just passing the ball, just throwing the quarterback to receiver grading is literally ranked first in the country. So I don't know. I mean, I think that is kind of, people see that and they're impressed with May's ability to make some clutch throws and make some throws in tight windows. But another part of it I think is underrated about his game that he does just enough to do, but he does it well, is running the ball. Can you talk a little bit about that? Does his ability to run the ball or throw the ball impress you more?
I mean, people don't expect him to run because he's 6'5". You know,
Yeah.
it surprises people.
Yep.
Now I'd still say his arm and his accuracy impresses me more, but his
Yeah.
ability to extend plays and then make throws downfield, like the pass that blew up against Wake Forest when he scrambled, threw it across his body to J.J. Jones for a first down. And I think that's what Sam Howell was good at doing, extending. But Sam Howell would take a 20-yard sack just trying to extend the play, where you haven't seen that as many times with Drake May.
Yeah, he's decisive. He's
He
decisive.
makes he reads quickly too. And
Yeah.
but I have to check. I'm not sure if Elijah Green passed him yesterday, but he's probably still our leading rusher on the year too, which is impressive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with that Georgia Tech matchup, I'm just still curious about that because I think even though State lost to Louisville over the weekend, up at Louisville for those who didn't watch it, the score was 25-10 Louisville. Again, State didn't have. I mean, they're essentially like their key players. They'd have their top two quarterbacks. They didn't have one of their starting linebackers, Peyton Wilson, their starting center. They didn't have their starting tight end, halfback. They'd have a lot of key pieces. But Carolina, I'm curious, do you think the loss there to Georgia Tech was more of them feeling the pressure of the Heisman talk with Luke May and getting that 10th win? Do you think it was the fact that it's Georgia Tech and we're overlooking them? Do you think it was a combination of looking ahead to NC State, thinking, oh, it's Georgia Tech, we can just take care of business here? What do you think what attributed to that? Do you think it's a little bit of everything?
Everything. I mean, there were definitely some situations where we went for it on fourth down inside the 5, which has been what we've done all year. But a field goal could have obviously made a difference. I think there were 2 or 3 instances where we did that. Maybe they were trying to push us. Well, they didn't have a lot of rushing attempts, but they could have potentially been trying to push the Heisman candidacy and not just play the game like they have in the past. Maybe here, let's try to get a touchdown here. Let's try to get more passing yards here instead of just doing what's working.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a clean performance at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna be very curious about that. But Michael, you go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to switch over to the defense a little bit here. When obviously there's talent on the UNC defense. They brought in Gene Chizik, was a big name to be the new defensive coordinator. Maybe not, I guess, in your opinion or in the fan base's opinion, what's been the reason mainly for the struggles this year defensively?
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need, offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out.
I just saw something that we're very, very distant last in ACC in getting pressure on the quarterback. And that's been a constant issue, constant complaint. I mean, if you give anybody 4 seconds back there, it's hard to guard on the back end, and it's hard to it's easy for them to complete a pass. What going from last year to this year, what everyone was excited was that he would simplify the defense. There was times last year we wouldn't be lined up when the ball was getting snapped, and I mean that was frustrating for me. But you think, okay, we've got a couple calls, they can execute it, use the talent, get to the right play, and make a play. But there's still been issues of just whether it's soft coverages or the first game, Florida A&M's quarterback looked pretty decent against us, and everyone was making fun of that.
Yeah.
I just said, "Oh, it was a vanilla defense. We're not showing much," but that's pretty much been our defense a year.
That's what we said against ECU.
Yeah, we
about
thought,
our offense.
we're just gonna not really show much. We're just gonna stay the same. But it's it is puzzling because we do have talent, and I mean the 2 linebackers are leading the top, at least probably top 5 in the ACC in tackles. So they've played well, but I think for most of the ACC schedule, his philosophy has worked. He's very bend but don't break. It's almost the opposite of what Gibson does at State. I mean, State's defense is designed to attack. It's designed to wreak havoc. It's designed to put the offense on its heels. No pun intended. But Chiswick's defense is just keep it in front of you, don't make a mistake, and just rally to the ball. And I mean, to be last in the ACC in yards given up, but I think right in the middle in points allowed is showing it's kind of worked. But there's been too many times where it didn't work well enough, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely improved in ACC play. But, I mean, man, if you could put UNC's offense with State's defense, that'd basically be the best team in the country, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. We can make a blue and red team for the rest of the playoffs.
There you go.
Man, that sounds so gross, though. That'd be so gross. I can't take that, man. I can't even think about that, man. No, but it's, I'm curious, is there an aspect of UNC's team in total? Obviously, let's maybe it is passing the ball, but that is there any area of their team so far that has impressed you in ways that you didn't expect this season, and maybe there's a part of their team that is underrated how good they are. Maybe it's a unit on the team that's underrated, and then is there a unit on the team that is really that's underwhelmed? You may have already touched on it, but I was just curious what your thoughts were.
Yeah, well, the defensive line definitely isn't getting the pressure that we hoped they would, especially with the talent they have and expectations going into the season. They talked about being 3 deep at every position, and they rotate guys. They get guys on the field. And they look pretty good in run defense for most of the game yesterday, but sacks are way down, and for injuries, we do have our starting edge guy. The transfer from Virginia, Noah Taylor, is out for the year. And Des Evans is also out. He's our starting defensive end. You start to wonder if that's going to start to show up down the road. And then someone that's underrated that, they never get mentioned unless they mess up. Our punter his average is, I think 46 yards a punt, which is it's a weapon when you can change the field like that.
Oh, State fans know about punting. Not toot our own horn here, but man, we've had some really good punting success in the last couple of years. Trenton Gill, he's now with the Bears, drafted as a punter. Drafted. And then before that, AJ Cole was Pro Bowler, right? So for the Raiders. So you're totally right. A punter who can flip the field for you and make a team go the whole length of the field for at least the majority of the field to score, that puts a lot of pressure on your opposing offense. And it certainly helps out your defense. So you're totally right about that. I think with NC State though, I think the area that I've been the most, I think it's been underrated is the ability to stop the run. I think has been really underrated for State because we don't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback either. I think, and so when you think of a defensive line, you usually think of the better defensive lines, the ones that are flashing with getting sacks and all that. But I really think State's defensive line has done a good job of stopping the run, and doing that kind of thing. They've certainly been there, but I think one area they've been a little underwhelming this year, I would actually say, is the offensive line. They can be sometimes pretty soft. You saw that a little bit against Louisville, but then again, your starting center was out, and you had to switch over a guard to center, and he doesn't normally play center. And I wouldn't have. I think there's moments they have nice games, but just to kind of match your comments, what you're saying there, Will, about Carolina, I think State has. I think either side of the line for NC State has been your story of, to me, the more impressive and then or underrated versus not overrated, but just underwhelming. So it'll be interesting if Carolina is not generating a lot of sacks, which NC State's not either, but State is not going to block as well as they should. I think that'll be an interesting thing to watch. We'll talk about the matchup here shortly in the next episode, but that just kind of to add along to that, I think that's a couple areas for State to match that comment. But I guess before we go into this matchup, what are your thoughts about Mac Brown as a coach at this point? Because I almost kind of wonder if Drake May has saved his career at Carolina at this point, because I wondered if he had not had Drake May this year, would he be gone? And I don't know, because I'm not a Carolina fan, and maybe that's totally off basis, but it wasn't looking good last year. And you had a Sam Howell who you could argue at the time. I think to this point, he's still the best quarterback, maybe one of your best quarterbacks in Carolina history, and didn't win a road game. And now you get this freshman quarterback to come in, and man, he just looks so much better. You're winning games. There's even a legitimate Heisman talk. I don't know what you think about Mac Brown at this point. You bring back Gene Chizik, who really wasn't that great, in my opinion, of a defensive coordinator when he's at Carolina the first time. But what are your thoughts about Mac Brown this time at Carolina?
I think you always have your fans out there that are yelling for the head coach's head after every loss.
Oh,
and,
yeah. Every team.
There's also the fans that coaches can't do wrong for either. I love what he's done. Think about where we were when he got here. I mean, they had won 5 games in 2 years.
Fedora.
Total. Mm-hmm. And Fedora had his great stretches at UNC also before it kind of went south. But Mac Brown kind of revitalized the fan base. I was at his first home game when he played against Miami, and it was one of the better atmospheres I've ever seen in Keenan. I think what they knew when they brought him back was that he would he'd recruit well. He'd be able to bring money into the program through boosters. And he'd get the right players, and he'd put a good staff around him. I think it's a negative connotation when you say a coach is a CEO coach, but having the right people around you makes you look good. And I personally really like Longo as a coordinator. I know he gets his hate too. And I'm not going to call for him. I'm not going to say I hope he retires. I think he's done a good job bringing good energy and putting UNC in a much better foundation for whoever does follow him. And I do like his aggressiveness going for it. I mean, fourth down's been huge for UNC this year, winning games and extending drives. And I mean, I'm not going to complain about him. I don't have any negative
That's fair.
thoughts for him.
Yeah,
I know there was a lot.
I just figured I'd get.
There was a lot of jokes. Grandpa Mac's coming back, from both sides of these colors here. But I've always been pro Mac Brown, so
that's cool. Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I just get curious about that, having a Carolina fan's perspective on Mac Brown, because I didn't get a good vibe from the fans that I knew, even family members, and now I'm sure nobody's really talking about it, right? Because you're having a great year. So I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah.
But
and I do think he was brought in kind of like what you said, to be that CEO and put the program back in a good spot after Fedora. Because obviously, I mean, how old is he now?
73, 74?
something.
Yeah, like I mean, they weren't hiring him to be your coach for the next 15 years.
Right, no.
Like, so I think he was brought in to stable that foundation, which obviously it looked rocky after last year, but clearly paid off this year.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have a really good matchup on Friday between NC State and UNC. I know it'll be a big thing right after Thanksgiving. They've had this game on Fridays the last few years, I don't really never understand that either personally, because that messes with high school football and all that. But it's going to be a great matchup, like it always is. You never know what's going to happen in rivalry games. I mean, we'll talk about that matchup in this next preview, but it's going to be really exciting. I can't wait to see what happens. And I hope you guys tune into the game. It'll be 3:30, I think it is. And do we know what channel it's going to be on, guys?
ABC.
Is it ESPN, ACC Network?
ABC.
Which one is it? ABC.
ABC.
All right.
Yeah.
Big channel. There we go. So
Yep.
Nationally televised game, guys.
Mhm.
I think it will deliver. I expect both teams to play up and get amped up. I don't think you need a lot of bulletin board material to get the juices flowing for each team. But it's going to be really exciting, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode, this preview on Tuffy Talk. Be sure to like and subscribe. You can follow us on Twitter. Really, again, we're just NC State fans talking NC State stuff, and love talking about it with the fan base. So be sure to let us know what your thoughts are about this matchup going forward, and we really appreciate Will joining us here from Great Day Tar Heel. Will, where can the NC State fan base find you at?
On Twitter, Instagram, at Great Day Tar Heel on both of them. Love to engage.
Okay.
I don't talk too much trash, so we'll have fun.
No, I will. Like I said from the get go, that for a Carolina fan, he's pretty cordial and pretty good to talk to, guys.
Grew up in Raleigh,
pretty fair, I would say. So, but be sure to follow Will there, and again, be sure to like, subscribe here, guys. And as always, go Pack.